Well, greetings, YouTube. It's time to take another first look at a trailer, this trailer being Battleship. Now, before I get into my first reactions to this trailer, I need to digress a little bit to point something out. This is my first reaction to the very first trailer that was just recently released. It is now July 30th, 2011. I know in the coming months they're going to release a more probably full trailer that's going to have additional information in it. There probably is also, keep in mind the movie's not out yet. And I only say this stuff because I always have people who post that, oh, what do you mean you didn't mention this? Your speculation. Fool, you didn't know this. I'm basing this on the trailer. This is speculation talk before the movie gets released. Because people like to talk about that. Which, by the way, feel free to post your own speculations on the film, or comments and such. But I only say that because people always post, and it's always months later. It's like, did you not check the date when it says it was uploaded? Obviously, this is not a recent video. But I digress from that. Back on point. So, the new Battleship trailer was out, which I actually saw before. I saw it online before I saw it in the theater. If you go to see Cowboys and Aliens, it was playing on that. And I'm very mixed on this film. I think I'm mixed because it's based on Battleship. If this was called, Fleet Action or something along those lines, I would go, this is an awesome film. I would be excited as hell for this. But I think as an interpretation of the game Battleship, it's a little off. Now, the development of this film is kind of long and trying. Basically, after Hasbro scored with their toy line, they decided to think of other things they could turn into films, make some money. They had G.I. Joe, they had Transformers. What else they were trying to think could they do? One of the deal was a board game. Hell, Pirates of the Caribbean was based on a theme park ride. Go for it. Now, I heard several different variations on the script. The first one, I think, was about a rogue battleship. Navy constructs a new battleship, and either it goes rogue or it's something along those lines. And later on, I heard it was going to take place completely in space, and it was going to be, a space opera, which I kind of dug, especially if they were going to revamp the battleship line to reflect, space. I could do that. How I had the Star Wars battleship, so the idea of doing something like that in space, okay. And then I saw the actual trailer, which kind of interprets it. It's basically set up that aliens are doing something in the ocean, a fleet of ships kind of comes in contact with them, they kind of poke around on this one spiral thing, and it shoots up in the trailer, it shoots up this like dome thing, so it's almost like it's laid out the battlefield, so nothing, I guess it's probably going to be like nothing can get in, nothing can get out until they defeat the alien fleet. And it's kind of cool to see, you kind of seen like Battle Los Angeles and all these other kind of War of the Worlds type films. It's always on land as people running around fighting. You don't ever see it from the Navy's perspective. It'd be kind of cool to see. I've always kind of wanted to see how you see it from the Navy's perspective, how the Navy is fighting these aliens. And, well, now we're going to get the chance. That's why I kind of like this. I mean, if you can buy Marines fighting aliens in Los Angeles and Battle LA, why can't you buy, the Navy shooting stuff off? I mean, you really never see it. I mean, occasionally you'll see a destroyed fleet like you did in Skyline, which you just saw a few F-18s from the fleet there. Later on, you see the destroyed fleet, but you kind of do want to see how the Navy would react. And they actually, in the trailer, the aliens, when they shoot stuff at the human fleet, which is, by the way, an international fleet. I like how they did that on purpose. I can guarantee you they did that on purpose to try to make it more of an international appeal, where it's not just the Americans going out and fighting. And I mean, if it wasn't for the fact I knew that's why they were doing it, I wouldn't mind. But it's one of those where you kind of know that it was a politically motivated script thing, and it kind of ruins it for me when they do that. it's the same thing with GI Joe. That always kind of annoyed me with the GI Joe. Not because they made it that's because it was about an international team of counter-terrorists fighting an evil organization. No, it was because they made it that way in order to appeal. I mean, I'm very much like, just go with, if it's an American team, just go with the American team. But I digress on that. But yeah, they do make it the point that it's an international fleet. This is basically on an international fleet exercises, which yes, they do on a regular basis with many navies. But yeah, back to the pegs. Yeah, the aliens, they shoot things at the. I'm not sure how this is going to work in film. Whether like if they line up the pegs so they connect and blow up. A very inefficient way to take out uh, an enemy ship, especially because Liam Neeson, who plays the main admiral in this film, is basically this like fire what's their everything. And they take a fucking battleship and it unloads. I have a feeling our shells might be a little better than whatever their peg routine is, but we'll see. I mean, alright, it's not strict like the plastic pegs. They're obviously some sort of machine things, but they embed in. It's going to be interesting to see. I am kind of curious. I mean, I guess this is, most people aren't aware that the battleships have been retired for, I think it's been a good decade and a half at least at this point. There's no Iowa class battleships in service. I wonder, now then they might lampshade it saying we brought these things out of retirement again. If they did that, okay. I mean, after all, these things were retired once and they brought them back. Although I think now they're pretty much all museum pieces. But yeah, I'm going to see this just because Liam Nielsen's in it. Liam Nielsen's in an action movie. I'm going to see this. I trust this man's judgment. The main character is some lieutenant who is, I don't know. He's always you were the first fastest man ever. No one's ever gone from enlisted to an officer as fast as you did. What's wrong with you? Nobody understands you in the military yet. You know, he's gonna be that nobody understands him, but when it comes time to action, he's the best that he can do type. Uh, it's cliche, but hey. And of course, he's dating the admiral's daughter too. I think that's where people are getting the Transformers feel. That and the ships actually do. If you've seen Revenge of the not Revenge of the Fallen, Dark of the Moon, those Decepticon ships. These look very the ships that we see in this trailer look very much like that. Actually, it's kind of weird. They kind of hop. I'm not sure what's up with the aliens and their abilities. Whether apparently are these just ships that float around? Is there like a big mothership that's the actual thing that flies around? If not, you're kind of going, why are the aliens acting this way? Now, again, there could be a lot of plot stuff with that. I'll buy it. Maybe they'll think of an excuse. Maybe they'll think like, this is that they do find some sort of spiral thing. Maybe that the spiral is an alien third party, that these ships had come down, and whatever that spiral does with the dome, it doesn't let their ships fly around like they should be able to. And if they have that excuse, okay, good. You set a way that the film kind of forced these ships to play by the humans' rules, shall we say. Although it's very quick. It looks like this battle starts very quickly, unless this is just one of those films where it's going to start and be like, where is it? It's going to have a long build-up and then long action scene, where it's like long build-up and then the actual battle takes place for the rest of the film. Which can work. You can have that work, especially in the Navy. If you ever seen Midway or one of those films, especially with naval warfare, naval warfare does allow for respites, shall we say. And because it takes place over such a wide, naval warfare generally takes place over such a wide area, you can go and switch back and forth between different characters and different people's reactions to stuff. So it'll be very interesting, mainly because we haven't had a Navy action film. I mean, other than having something on the Navy SEALs or Navy aviators, which make up a relatively small percentage of the Navy. Now, there's a reason for that, and that's because the Blue Water Navy actually hasn't had a real fight since World War II. I mean, there's been small action, we've had some small action in Vietnam, Gulf of Tonkin, and the preceding incident to the Gulf of Tonkin. Two that I can think of, but even then that was patrol boats, really. I think the last real naval engagement was the Falklands War. I can't think of any others since then, and that was the early 80s. So we've had 20 years with no real Navy. I mean, other than minor stuff, no real Navy battles, and really no major naval battles until World War II. And that's basically how the Navy operates, really. I mean, if you ever read, nations don't risk their navies like they risk their armies because navies are more expensive. But I have been wanting to see a naval war film. Basically, I was hoping that somebody would like do remake Sink the Bismarck, or remake or do a movie on Midway or Jutland or one of these major battles with navies and battleships and stuff, which you rarely see. You rarely see for multiple reasons. It's expensive. You have to either get access to these ships. It's very hard to. Although with CGI today, you can really do the fleets, and that's why I really wanted to see them, because before, they did it in the '60s when you can kind of take stock footage from the war itself and kind of insert it into the film, and it didn't look too bad. Obviously, now you can't do that, even for a World War II film. But with today's technology, I feel like there was Battleship. Yeah, there was the Yamamoto one from Japan that they did, but I haven't seen that one yet. Before, now I'm not talking about Space Battleship Yamamoto. There was actually a film in Japan about the Battleship Yamamoto and its final mission, which I have not seen. But before anyone says anything, yes, I know that film exists, and that's relatively recent. But two more things before I close out this video. One, again, but with the Michael Bay thing, it is a different director. We have Peter Berg, who you might recall from. He did Friday Night Lights. He did Hancock. He did The Kingdom, which really the end of The Kingdom has a really great action scene. So I am kind of looking forward to this because I know the guy can do action. He did Friday Night Lights, The Kingdom, Hancock. It's really probably what everyone's going to know him from. He's also done acting too, so you might have seen him. I guarantee you'll see him pop up in this film. Now the other thing is what I was saying earlier about. I don't think this is the best interpretation for Battleship. Like I said, if this was called Fleet Action or something along those lines, I wouldn't care at all. But Battleship, it was always about two fleets shooting at each other, and I felt there could have been a better way to do this. And I started to think. The whole alien thing kind of threw it off. I mean, at least if you put it in actual space, like where there's a human fleet and an alien space fleet, it's all going on in the future. You kind of buy it, but with having regular ships and such, it doesn't feel as much like Battleship. And I thought of a couple ways they could have done this. One, they could have had it just where you could have put the Russians. I mean, do the Crimson Tide thing. Say there's a civil war in Russia, and part of the fleet have defected to the bad Russians. Look at Modern Warfare. I mean, the game Modern Warfare, Call of Duty. You can do bad guys as Russians, and you can sell it to a wide audience. Chinese may be more realistic. Okay, granted, there's nobody you can really put up against the USA, and it makes up I think the majority percentage of the world's military tonnage when it comes to navies. I think it makes up like 2/3 of the world's aircraft carriers, and really the others, those other aircraft carriers really don't match up to like Nimitz class carriers in terms of size and ability and all that. But I thought of another scenario, or you could have done this. You had the brand new new class of battleships. You send it out, and the Navy thinks they did something bad. There's some sort of conspiracy thing going on there, so they send a fleet out, kind of like part of that element from Hunt for Red October. Where now, granted, if you do that, you might lose the support of the U.S. Navy, which obviously is a big player in this. Which is why they probably went with the alien thing. Okay, we'll get the Navy because you're fighting aliens, instead of saying there's a civil war in the Navy and maybe there's bad guys in the Navy. And the Navy doesn't have to help your film if it's going to portray it bad. They're not going to say you can't make it, but they're going to go, you kind of are trashing us a little bit. We don't like it. We're not going to give you official support. Hey, that's all right. But here's the other thing you could have done. You could have done the PMC route. They did this with that Hawks, that Hawks game. They basically made like a PMC replaces the Air Force in that game to a rather ridiculous extent. But hey, it's a movie you can buy. Say that the Navy is being replaced by a new private military corporation that has its own fleet, and this new battleship kind of catches them doing something wrong, and therefore the PMC tries to frame them, and they have to fight their way out of this fleet. That would have been a cooler movie to do, and it would have felt more. I think it would have bought a little bit easier. But like I said, you can see clearly that they've interpreted elements of the game into this film. So I might give it a pass if they somehow really do it. By the way, Liam Neeson better say, "You sunk my battleship" at some point in this film. Either that or if there's an alien commander somehow that says it, that would also be cool. That line has to be. If it's not said, this film is horrible. I don't care if the rest of the film is awesome. If they omit that line, the film is automatically horrible. I've gone on for 15 minutes on a speculation and my first reactions to a trailer that lasted only a couple minutes. I think I've done enough now. Signing off. I'll be back with another review sometime, eventually, somewhere, somehow. Peace.